Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare, Hare
Hare Rama,
Ramo,
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Ramo, Ram
Rama
Ramo,
Ramo,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna, Hare
Hare Hare,
Hare, Hare
Hare Ramo,
Ramo,
Hare
Hare
Ramo,
Ramo,
Ramo
Ramo
Ramo,
Ramo, Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna
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 Krishna,
Hare
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 Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Rama
Rama, Ramo
Rama
Ramo,
Rama
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Hare
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna
Krishna, Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare
Hare
Hare Rama
Hare
Hare Rama
Ramo,
Ramo
Ramo,
Ramo
Ramo, Hare
Hare Hare
Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Ramo Ramo Hare Hare
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Hare
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 Hare, Hare
Hare Rama
Ramo,
Hare Rama
Ramo,
Rama Rama
Ramo,
Hare
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 Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Hare
Hare Krishna,
Krishna
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Haribol.
Good. Good.
No, no, go ahead.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dravida Prabhu, thank you very much
Say my
for
humble
giving us
obeisance.
your association.
This is Krishna Ramananda.
Yes, Prabhu.
Right. Nice to see you
Not
again.
able to see you. Your video. Yep.
Can you see me?
Somehow, no.
Oh, my video's not working.
It was
Oh.
there. It's,
There we go. How's that?
yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhu
Patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnav ki jai. Prabhupada ki jai. So I'll just give quick introduction and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Grace Dravida Prabhu is a Vaishnava scholar, musician, and poet. He has edited Back to Godhead magazine and other books published by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust for over 25 years. From 1983 to 1989, he was part of the team that produced the last 6,000-page volumes of the magnum opus of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, a commented English translation of India's jewel of Vedic wisdom, the 18,000-verse Srimad Bhagavatam. He also helped produce the revised version of Srila Prabhupada's 9-volume Chaitanya Charitamrita during 1995 to 1996 and his Krishna book from 94 to 95. In addition to his editing work, he teaches Bhakti Yoga classes at the Los Angeles and San Diego ISKCON centers. Throughout all this immersion in transcendental literature, Dravida Das developed a love of the Sanskrit language and especially the elaborate Sanskrit prosody of the Bhagavatam, portions of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and other Bhakti literature. His devotion and expertise in chanting form a marvelous combination. He is a brahmachari since many decades. He is a Srila Prabhupada's disciple. Jai. Dravida Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for that.
Thank
It's
you,
a bit
Prabhu.
much. So, should we begin?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Madhupadi Prabhu is there, our temple president, our vice president is also there. Devakinanda Prabhu is also there. Yeah.
Wow. So, Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So I've been asked to speak a little bit about the essence of the Bhagavad-Gita, and I suggested that we speak about those 4 essential verses in the 10th chapter, and we're also going to speak a little bit about 1865 and 66. So I prepared a little PowerPoint. Let's see, so we can follow along a little bit. There we go. Whoops. Let's see. So can everyone see that?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, that's better.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll begin with Bhagavad Gita 10.8. This I don't need. And I'll just begin. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Namo Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Okay, so we'll read the 4 essential verses beginning with Bhagavad Gita 10.8. Now just before we read this, just to lead in, this is a chat in the chapter called the Vibhuti Yoga, where Krishna delineates his opulences And later on, he'll give a sample of his opulences in different categories of bodies of water on the ocean, etc. And but in this section, at first he describes how all the demigods come from me, no one can know me, everything comes. And finally, he reaches this verse. And this and the next 3 verses are understood to be the essential 4 verses of Bhagavad-Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. Anyone here? Okay.
Aham sarvasya prabhavo.
Mattak sarvam pravartate.
Mattah sarvam pravartate.
Iti matva bhajante mam.
Iti mattva bhajante mam.
Buddha bhava samanvita.
Buddha bhava samanvita.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna said, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So it has been pointed out that this and the next 3 verses, they encompass what Lord Chaitanya said is the theme or the philosophical import of all the Vedas, and that is this division of Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana. And so this one verse gives this essential information of who Krishna, who God is, who Krishna is, and also tells us about the practice of worshiping him. So the Sambandha is understood to be, Sambandha means relationship. And it encompasses this understanding of who is God, what is this world, who are we, living beings here, and what are the relationships between all those 3? It's a big subject matter, and in the Dashamula, which is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's nice summary of Lord Chaitanya's teachings in 10 points, the first point number 2 through point number 8 all deal with Sambandha. So if we have time, we can review those a little bit. They're quite extensive. But here, the main point here, the first 2 lines, if you will, Krishna is saying out, he's revealing that I am the source of everything. Everything emanates from me. Now, it's interesting that he says it from 2 different perspectives here. One is that starting with Krishna, aham, I am the source of everything that we see. But we're actually starting from the world itself. We can't see God. So he says, everything you see is coming from me. There's a slight difference, and it covers both perspectives there. So that in essence is the essence of Sambandha, is that Krishna's revealing that he is the Supreme Personality of God. Let me turn this phone off, I'm sorry. I didn't do that properly. Okay, so some of you may know the essential line in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That's Jiva Goswami said is the Paribas Sutra, which means the foundation of the entire book rests on this line. Ete chansakala pumsa Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Some of you may be familiar with that. Yes. So after delineating all these different avatars, Shakti-based avatars mostly. Some of them are also Vishnu Tattva, Matsya avatars there, and the Singh is there. A whole list, including the Dash avatars and more. And Krishna is among them. Then it says, all of these are either expansions of Krishna, plenary expansions or partial expansions, but Krishna is Bhagavan himself. And this is a very important philosophical understanding. Prabhupada deals with this in the purport. It's quite a long and involved purport. But basically what he's doing there, he's quoting from different sources of Vedic knowledge, from the Gopal-Tapani Upanishad, the Narayana Upanishad, the Maha-Upanishad, the Moksha Dharma, all to the effect, quoting them, that Krishna or Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, and Rupa Goswami has written an entire book on that, with that theme, called Laghu Bhagavatamrita, showing how of all the possible candidates, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original personality of Godhead. So then what do we do with this information? So that the next half of the verse, we're already into abideya, the practice. Iti matva bhajante mam. One who understands this, who's intelligent, Buddha, and understands this, worships me with all their heart, bhava samanva, with full attention and devotion. So right away, you're of course, it's very, very condensed, and this is why it is essential verse. It's the essence of the Bhagavad-Gita. In other parts of the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna expands on this. What is the living entity? So we have this whole lesson on the soul in the second chapter, from text 11 to text 30, 20 verses. And that's a foundational knowledge. One has to understand that we're eternal, that we never born, never died, the process of transmigration. So the second chapter, as Prabhupada nicely titled it, the contents of the whole work, the summary of there's little of everything there, but it's a very important information. And the other parts of the Bhagavad-Gita, they expand on this theme. But here we have just the essence. It's just like sutras, really. Understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, having that faith, which is foundational, then we can, with that faith, we can begin our devotional career. Without that faith, nothing starts. Then, we come and go, and we still have so many doubts. That's why in several places, Krishna is saying, get up, Arjun, slay these doubts and surrender to me, you see. So this is the first verse, has these two parts in it. The first half is the Sambandha part. And then the second part also involves, of course, the living entity. So the second part also involves some other relationship. The relationship is that we are tiny part and parcels of Krishna, we're his eternal servants. And when we understand his greatness from the Vedic literatures, from the pure devotees, from the great saints, we start to engage in devotional service with full attention and full devotion. So then we go to the next verse. And how does that devotional service take place? So here in a wonderful summary verse, he describes the process of devotional service. So also you say, Matchitta madgata prana.
Matchitta madgata prana.
Bodhiyantak parasparam.
Bodhayanta parasparam.
Katayantascha mam nityam.
Katayantascha mam nityam.
Tushyanti chadamanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So, one who believes that Krishna is God is intelligent, Buddha, and surrenders and works for him. And how to work? The first thing is always they place their consciousness on me. They think of me. This is the essence of the whole process of Krishna consciousness. And we know that in this age, we're very fortunate to have Lord Chaitanya come, Krishna come as Lord Chaitanya, and give us this process for placing our mind on Krishna, namely the chanting of the Maha Mantra. And so that, along with that placing of our mind on him and associating with devotees, as it's described here, Bodhiyantak parasparam. This is the essence of satsanga, what we call satsanga or sadhu sangha, is that we meet with others and we discuss Krishna, we glorify Krishna. Now, he also includes in Madgata Prana. They dedicate their lives to me. We have certain skills, we have our knowledge acquiring senses, our active senses, our mind, our intelligence. The science of bhakti includes the process of engaging all of these in relation to Krishna, linking up to Krishna, the yoga, through bhakti yoga, and purification by that linking up. But the most important is hearing and chanting, and that's what's emphasized in the last three lines here. Bodhiyantak parasunam, they glorify me together mutually. Katayantash chamam nityam, always speaking about me, and in this way enjoying transcendental happiness. Tushyanti chadamanti, they become very satisfied, tushyanti, and enjoy transcendental bliss. So this is very important to realize the happiness of Krishna consciousness, because this is what draws us in and keeps us going and gives us a taste of the goal, which is pure love for Krishna, in which the happiness doesn't end but is ever expanding. Srila Prabhupada has given us these wonderful books, and in some of in all of them, the science is described. I've just been reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm now in the Antya-lila, and it's just so wonderful to read about Lord Chaitanya's dealing with his intimate devotees and his kirtan, and how they're enjoying such transcendental bliss, just chanting in the Ratha Yatra and speaking about Krishna. And the idea is that the purer that we become, the more that we'll appreciate these activities of the Lord, and also engage in hearing and chanting the holy name, and from the Bhagavatam. That's another thing that Prabhupada emphasizes in this second verse, how to serve, especially hearing and chanting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very dear to the Vaishnavas. As you know from reading the Bhagavatam itself, it was Vyasadev's final work, and he had become dissatisfied because he hadn't written anything just wholly and solely dealing with Krishna and Krishna's service and pure devotional service. So, and the Bhagavatam itself, there's so many wonderful prayers, the songs of the gopis glorifying Krishna. The full experience of hearing and chanting can be satisfied just from Bhagavatam. And our wonderful, the Goswamis, the 6 Goswamis, they wrote so much other literature, expanding on the Bhagavatam and giving beautiful vibrations that we can share with each other, and tushanti charamanti. And that pleasure and that satisfaction takes our mind away and indeed purifies us of any attraction to sense gratification. This desire for sense gratification is what keeps us bound in this material world. You can never be satisfied. It's a false satisfaction. It's often compared, as probably often described, to a mirage. It looks real, you get your hopes up, but when you actually get to it or experience it, it never meets your expectations, and ultimately you leave dissatisfied and simply with longing for the more sense gratification. Then you come back again and try in another body. So, but being satisfied in Krishna consciousness and culturing that pleasure in the association of devotees takes us right back to Godhead, because that's what's going on there. And Krishna helps from within the heart, as he explains in the next verse. So this is Abhideya, this is the practice of devotional service. And then what happens? Tesham satati yuktanam. Anyone there?
Tesham satati yuktanam.
Bhajatam priti purvakam.
Bhajatam pritipurvakam.
Dadami buddhi yogam tam.
Dadami buddhi yogam tam.
Yena mam upayanti te.
Yena mam upayanti te.
Now here, Krishna is describing those who are always linked to me. And how are they linked to me? As he described in the previous verse, with their mind thinking of me and their life activities dedicated to me, always glorifying me and enjoying the sound vibrations and the association with me through the sound. Now he mentions Priti Purvakam. This is the final goal. This is Prayojana. The goal of this practice is pure love for Krishna, is prema. It's not mukti, it's certainly not sense gratification, it's not liberation, mukti. It's simply that awakening of that love and engaging in all kinds of services to express that love and feeling Krishna's reciprocation. And that's what bhakti means. It's not just love of Krishna, it's love for Krishna and experiencing Krishna's love back. And that's exactly what he's doing here. Krishna is so eager when some soul, and Prabhupada describes this planting of this bhakti lata bija, the seed of the creeper of devotion, by Lord Chaitanya. His description to Rupa Goswami, and how the fortunate soul wandering in the universe, so many species, so many situations, by the grace of the Guru and Krishna, he gets the seed of the creeper of devotion, and then he waters it. How? Previous verse, by hearing and chanting. Shravanadi Jal, hearing and the water of hearing and chanting. So that cultivation, then of course, we have to give up the offenses. And by keeping pulling those weeds out, then the creeper will grow and so forth. So if they're constantly devoted to serving him with love, We may not be pure yet, but if we're sincere and praying for that love and our chanting of Hare Krishna, Prabhupada explained that we are praying to Radha and Krishna to please engage me in your service. If that's prayer is sincere, then Krishna from within the heart, he will guide us in such a way that we can overcome the difficulties and overcome the barriers and advance in devotional service. So this is very much a part of the prayojana, which is the attainment of pure love for Krishna. It gradually manifests, and we feel Krishna's guidance from within. He's of course the super soul, and he gives us remembrance, knowledge, forgetfulness, and he will give us the intelligence, as he describes here, by which we can come to him. Now, Prabhupada, he focuses on this Buddhi Yoga, and he harkens back to the 2nd chapter, that this Buddhi Yoga, of course, involves the intelligence, how you link your intelligence to Krishna, which is essential. The intelligence is right next to the soul, as Prabhupada would often say. And when our intelligence becomes purified by hearing from pure sources, from the Shastra and from pure devotees, and we also repeat that message, that's important also, then Krishna from within the heart, he gives us more and more intelligence how we can advance. And he also gives us vairagya. He gives us detachment from things that can stop our progress. So, yena mamapi antine, by which they can come to me. So Krishna is very eager. We know that verse from the 2nd chapter, 1st canto. Shunmatam sukata Krishna punya shavana kirtana riddandaksto yabadrani vidunoti suritsatam. That when Krishna understands that his devotee is hearing of him, Shunmatam punya shavana kirtana, what are they hearing? They're hearing the vibrations of him that purify one and make one pious just by hearing them. He, situated within the heart, cleanses away the abudras, the blockages, the inauspicious things in our heart that are impeding our devotional service. Yabhadrani vidunoti suritsatam, because he is the ever well-wisher, the eternal well-wisher of his sincere devotees. Surit, the Prabhupada described, this is a friend who's always your well-wisher. So this is very much the reciprocation leading to prayojana. And finally, we get to verse 10:11. Tesham evanakam partham.
Tesham evanakam partham.
Aham jnana jam tamaha.
Aham jnana jam tamaha.
Nashayam yatma bhavasto.
Nashayami atma bhavasto.
Jnana deepena bhasvata.
Jnana deepena bhasvata.
To show them special mercy. Who is the them? Those who are always glorifying me and thinking me and serving me with love. To show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. Now, in this verse, Prabhupada, he helps by giving us the intelligence. And Krishna destroys all vestiges of darkness from within, darkness of ignorance from within. And I wanted to share one quote from the purport here, because this is the end, and he talks about the essence of the Gita. Due to the contamination of material association through many, many millions of births, one's heart is always covered with the dust of materialism. But when one engages in devotional service and constantly chants Hare Krishna, the dust quickly clears and one is elevated to the platform of pure knowledge. The ultimate goal, Vishnu or Krishna, can be attained only by this chant and by devotional service, and not by mental speculation or argument. The pure devotee does not have to worry about the material necessities of life. He need not be anxious, because when he removes the darkness from his heart, everything is provided automatically by the Supreme Lord, who is pleased by the loving devotional service of the devotee. This is the essence of the teachings of the Bhagavad-Gita. By studying Bhagavad-Gita, one can become a soul completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord and engage himself in pure devotional service. As the Lord takes charge, one becomes completely free from all kinds of materialistic endeavors. So I thought that was appropriate, since Prabhupada said this is the essence of the teachings of Bhagavad-Gita. The Bhagavad-Gita covers so many subject matters. You know, you get into karma yoga, and you get, there's also jnana yoga, of course, 6th chapter, dhyana yoga. But ultimately, and we'll read those verses in a few minutes, Krishna says one should give all these up and simply surrender unto me. That's the essence of the whole Bhagavad-Gita. The message of Bhagavad-Gita is wholly and solely bhakti. It's wholly and solely full surrender to Krishna and developing love for him. And now there's, this verse describes the text 9 describe that, or not 10 describe that loving devotion, priti purvakam. And he talks about that, of course, in the 18th chapter, which we'll read some verses from. Prabhupada would always quote that verse, Bhaktya mama bijanati yavanyashtasmi tattvaha. That one can understand me as I am in truth only by bhakti. This is reiterated in the Bhagavad-Gita, in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And once one understands me and has full realization of me as I am, one can enter into the spiritual world. Not otherwise, not by gyan, not by, certainly by yoga, siddhis or any of these things, but simply by developing our love for Krishna. So that's the essence of the Gita. I'd like to leave a little a spot here for if there are any questions or comments or discussion so far, we can entertain some discussion. Hello?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, anyone has questions on the 8, 9, 10, 11 from 10th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Haribol.
Dandvat, please accept my obeisance. All glories to Prabhupada.
Accept my English, Prabhupada.
Prabhuji, I had a question which my sister asked me a couple of days ago.
Okay.
And we were talking, and the Indian culture is there are many gods, quote unquote, Shiva, Ganesh, and so on and so forth. So she was saying, if you compare these personalities, Krishna with Shiva, Shiva is so compassionate that he even gives his association to the ghosts and people who are really fallen. He doesn't distinguish. Whereas Krishna shows you his mercy only if you surrender to him. And she has this feeling that he's kind of egotistic. First you surrender to me, and then you have to praise me, and you have to worship me, and so on and so forth. So she's saying, shouldn't a God, the Supreme, be all compassionate and not make it conditional on you to do this, then you'll get that? And
Okay.
I was kind of stumped. So I was hoping for your thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's some misunderstanding there. First of all, she should understand that Shiva is known as the best Vaishnava, the best worshiper of Krishna. And there's a beautiful song in the 4th canto called the Song of Shiva, which is, he ends up praying to see the lotus feet of Krishna. So he himself is a worshiper of Krishna. Now, if you study the Bhagavad-Gita, you'll find that in the 12th chapter, which is entitled Bhakti Yoga, whereas at the end, he certainly describes the qualities of the pure devotee and is fully surrendered and so forth. But there are other verses there where he says, well, okay, Arjun, he's speaking to Arjun as a representative of all of us. If you can't simply think of me all the time and devote yourself 100% to me, then just try to practice the principles of Bhakti Yoga, and you'll advance toward me. And if you can't even do that, then just try to work for me. Give me some donation, and then gradually advance. And even if you can't do that, then at least try to be generous. Don't be egotistical and don't be a demon, in other words, So he's very liberal there in that chapter. And most importantly, whereas he does, of course, say, just surrender unto me and I'll take care of you. Just see what he's asking. In the modern age, what does it really mean? First of all, he has come as Lord Chaitanya. It's not a different personality. And specifically, along with his, dear associate Nityananda, they're opening up this process to everybody. He does, just like Prabhupada, when he came to America and he started chanting and presenting Krishna consciousness, he just said, okay, are you surrendered to Krishna? If you're then, you can come in. kirtan, whatever. No. He says you can come, no matter what your background is, no matter what your situation is, how many doubts you have, you come here, as much as you want to take prasadam, it's free, listen to the kirtan, and we'll try to have your doubts, allay your doubts like that. So Lord Chaitanya and this movement which follows in his footsteps is welcoming everybody to take part at the level that they can. It's completely ecumenical. It's not. There's no prerequisites. As Lord Chaitanya said, "Nam namakari bahudani de sarva shaktis." You've invested your energies in your holy names. There's no hard and fast rules. There's no question of time or place restriction or candidate restriction. Anyone, anytime, any place can chant the holy name and be benefited. So, in that sense, Krishna, especially as Lord Chaitanya, is even more open-hearted and open-handed than Lord Shiva is. And the problem is that Lord Shiva, his devotees, they're materialistically inclined. They pray to him for all kinds of material boons, which he can give very easily. But Krishna wants to give the best boon, which is relief from the miseries of this material world, liberation, return back to Godhead for eternal life. So Shiva doesn't give that. He doesn't give liberation. He gives various material boons, and so the demons are very fond of worshiping him. Ravana was a very faithful servant of Lord Shiva. So there's a mistake. First of all, whereas Krishna does demand ultimately surrender, but it's not as if there are other intermediate steps that you can take, which will be very beneficial. As he says in the 7th chapter, 4th chapter. Chatur Vadhava Janta Mam Jana Sukatarojana, Arta Jigyasar Arta Jigyani Chavadatarshava. Sorry, the 7th chapter. That there's 4 kinds of pious people who come to me. One can come to Krishna and pray to him for material benefit, and one may get that. At least you're approaching God rather than being a complete atheist. But he says that the one who approaches with knowledge and is really looking for knowledge how to achieve pure bhakti, they're much more intimate with me, much more favored by me. So, but that doesn't mean that if one comes with a material motive, it can be transformed into spiritual motive. And the perfect example of that is Dhruva Maharaj. He went to Narayan, Vishnu, to get his kingdom greater than his father's, great-grandfather's, than Lord Brahma's. But Narada Muni always preaches just perfectly so that the candidate will advance in devotional service. So he said, okay, you just chant this mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva, always chanting the holy name, thinking of Vishnu within and doing little rudimentary deity worship. And so he's doing this bhakti with the motive of getting the kingdom. But by the time he actually saw Vishnu, he forgot about that. Svaman Gatatos Miladang Niyachi, I don't want the kingdom anymore. I'm completely satisfied with you. So we should try to focus on Krishna. He's not selfish, and he's not trying to be exclusive. Everything he does is for our own benefit. And some of these instructions, that he's given may seem harsh, but we need to wake up call, because if we think that we can be happy or secure in this world, we're complete fools. And so Krishna is merciful by giving us this strong instruction, but also coming as Lord Chaitanya and giving us this easy process of devotional service. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so should we go on to those final 2 verses?
Yes, Prabhu.
Then maybe I can share some poems with you.
Yes.
Okay, so let's share the screen again. And many of you know this verse, of course. Uh-oh. I'm sharing the screen. There we go. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay, so this is the little purport, and then next we have this famous verse. Manmana bhava madbhakto
Manmana bhava
Manabhava
madbhakto
Madhbhakto
madhyaji mam namaskuru
Madhyaji mam namaskuru
mame vaishyasi satyante
Mame vaishasi samtamte
pratijane priyosi me.
Pratijane priyoshi me.
Always think of me. Now, the context, of course, is that he said, I've spoken so many confidential things and more confidential teachings. This is the most confidential of all, which he already spoke at the end of the 9th chapter, but he's repeating it. Again, I'm saying this most always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Okay, and it kind of goes with the next verse. Sarva dharman parityaja
Sarvadharman parityaja
mamekam sharanam vraja
Mamekam charanam braja
aham tvam sarva papebhyo
Aham tvam sarva papebhyo
mokshiyasyami ma shuchaha.
Mokshishyami masuja.
Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So this is the final instruction really of Krishna in the Bhagavad-Gita. And this is the essence of it is really there in those 4 verses, but also these verses also encompass the whole process here. He goes back, oops, I didn't want to do that. Going back to our previous verse. I'm sure many of you are aware this practically identical verse was there, the first 2 lines certainly, in the end of the 9th chapter, which is known as the most confidential knowledge. So anything that's repeated, you know, is very important. So what is he saying here? Always think of me. So then there's a whole, books written on how to think of Krishna, And in this, like I was just reading, sometimes we're so wealthy with literature that Srila Prabhupada worked so hard to give us that we sometimes take it for granted. Just the qualities of Krishna described in the Nectar of Devotion, how to think of Krishna. Well, you want to think of Krishna and get into all the details of his personality. And that's what the writings of the Goswamis are, beginning with the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. 64 qualities. It's describing how he's so kind, how he's so merciful, how he's so expert. And each one of those qualities has a further verse, subsequent to the list, in which Rupa Goswami describes it. Sometimes he's quoting verses from this Shastra, that Shastra, sometimes there is his own verses. And so this is how we can be Krishna conscious. Lord Kapila Dev is explaining to his mother, this is Rijubiya Yoga Margam. This is the easiest method of devotional service, is to get together, Satam Prasangan Mama Virya Sambido, and discuss Krishna, glorify Krishna, chant a little kirtan, read about Krishna. Maybe if you have enough devotees, and you can put a play on. Of course, we have the deities. Deity worship is so important. The context, make it a regular meditation. And in this way, become Krishna conscious, just how beautiful Krishna is. I remember reading through, because we've had the actual Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu for some years now. Bhanu Swami has translated it, and with the Sanskrit. So I remember reading one verse that he had made a little mistake on. This way it stands out. I wrote to him about it. It's being fixed. But it's just a description of Krishna crawling before his mother with a little butterball in his hand. Such a delightful verse. The way he writes this. No, I'm sorry. What a wonderful construction. So Kwanita Kanaka Kinkani Kalapam. So as Krishna's crawling, he's a little baby with wearing just ankle bells. or waist bells and ankle bells. So his golden waist bells are tinkling beautifully. Kwanata Kanaka Kinkini Kalapam. The Kinkini are the waist bells. Kalapam. Kwanata Kanaka Kinkini Smitamukam, his smiling face. Ujjala Nasikagramuktam. He's got an effulgent pearl affixed to the tip of his nose. Kadaditanavaneeta Pindamangre. He's got a fresh butterball in his hand, one hand, as he's crawling toward his mother. And as she sees him, Nananda Nanda Patni, she's delighted. Nanda Patni is Nananda, which it means full of bliss. So just that one verse, it's a meditation. It's a perfect way of, who needs videos? We have these beautiful descriptions of Krishna, beautifully described, pearl-like, diamond-like verses. And all of that is available to us. We just have to take advantage of it. So that's how we can always think of Krishna. And when described, going back to our second verse of the 4 essential verses, Bodhiyanta parasparam katayantastamam nityam. In this way, sharing Krishna Katha with each other, what is that? There's a nice verse in the 11th canto. Parasparano katadam pavanam bhagavad-Gita metodati metostusti nivrita metaratmana. Devotees get together and Parasparano katadam pavanam bhagavad-Gita, and they glorify Krishna, whose fame, whose glorification is so purifying. Pavanam Bhagavad-Gita. And what happens when they do that? They develop wonderful devotional spiritual relationships with each other. Mito tushta, and they're mutually satisfied. That word tushti was there in one of the verses earlier. And they mutually develop their detachment from Maya. This is the easiest form of yoga, says Lord Kapila. So this is how we think of Krishna, and becoming his devotee, learning the science of devotional service, taking initiation, being trained, and giving up those things that are inimical, and taking on the favorable things, the process of surrender, and offer your homage unto me, and your obeisance to me, and recognizing our position as eternal servants. And then we'll certainly come to Krishna. He promises us. And this is a little different from the 9th verse. In the 9th chapter, he says, you'll always be linked to me in this way and come. But here he's promising as a friend, you're dear to me. This is more intimate. Mame satyam te pratijani priyosime. And then he says, okay, forget everything I said. In other words, just do this one thing. Sarva dharma, but give up all the dharma. You're worried about dharma at the beginning. You remember, Arjuna said, I'm bewildered about dharma. Please tell me for certain what I should do. And this is the answer. Don't worry about dharma. Just worry about surrendering to me. That encompasses all the dharma you need. And I will, don't worry about sinful reactions from engaging in this warfare. I'll take care of all of that. Don't worry about anything. So this is the final instruction of Krishna. And if we can just follow these 2 verses, then our Gita study will be perfect. I put him into a little poem. Just think of me, become devoted, worship me, and bow down low. What is it? Oh, yeah. You come to me, O friend. I promise you this boon I shall bestow. Just give up all other dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins I'll nullify, O Arjun, from anxiety be free. So it's now 5:45. There are another 15 minutes. We can continue discussing this. If there's any discussion or questions, we can answer them. Or
yeah, there was one question on the chat.
Sure.
From Taruni Radha Mata.
Should I read it? I can read it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, here. Hare Krishna Babuji. Please, can you let me, if it's essential to understand all the details of Krishna's pastimes, I'm asking you this from perspective of, is it important to develop a strong intellect versus developing a simple heart, which just relishes the pastimes itself, which are enacted to capture a conditioned soul's heart? Okay. There's no prerequisite for memorizing a certain number of verses. This happened to be, my attraction. And I always felt, when I memorized these verses, like I was picking up jewels and putting them in my little dhoti pocket, with a little effort I put into it. And then especially when you can share them. It's not essential to understand all the details of Krishna's pastime, but it is essential to get an attraction for understanding what we can and sharing. This is the Christmas marathon. Of course, we have the COVID, so everything is discombobulated. But the whole idea behind that, behind this movement and book distribution part of it, is that it's necessary. It's the most urgent need of every soul in this world. And the only ones who can really understand that need and appreciate it are human beings. It's essential that they become exposed to Krishna, that somehow or other their attention be turned to Krishna and asking these essential questions. Who am I? Why am I suffering? What's my destiny going to be? Is there a goal of life? All of these, and where did everything come from? Tato Brahma Jigyasa. So in our devotional practice, it's very important to become curious and interested in hearing more and more about Krishna. This is a sign of advancement, because the mind is, the vehicle for creating our destiny. That's our basic understanding. Whatever was the most prominent thought when we leave this body, that will determine our next life. Now, if we have some assets, even minor assets in Krishna consciousness, that's all auspicious. We'll be human beings, we'll begin again, again. But do we really want to come back again? We should strive to try to complete the course. And that means cultivating more and more our desire to hear about Krishna and our interest in things relating to him. So it's not, if you feel overwhelmed because there's so much to know about Krishna, right? And even all the things that we've been given to us is just a drop in the ocean. We know that it's impossible to fully understand Krishna. But even just understanding a little bit can take us back to Godhead. If that's the thing that we relish most, if that becomes our attraction. This is what is that verse? Prabhupada gave us a verse which is composed by Ramananda Roy, quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita and in the Pranjavali. Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati priyata yadikutopi labhyate tatta laulyam api mulyam ekalam janma koti sukutaya. Krishna Namananda knows this one, right? You like this one?
Yes, wonderful word, laulyam.
Yeah, laulyam. So Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati. Prabhupada said that the words Krishna consciousness, that famous phrase, came from the first line of this verse.
Yes.
Krishna bhakti rasa bhavitamati. They have one's mind absorbed in Krishna bhakti rasa, in bhakti rasa. So he says one should buy it if you can find it in the marketplace. Should purchase it, but you have to have the price. And what is that price? Laulyam. Laulyam is mulyam. It's very poetic. This is Ramananda Roy's writing. The only price is your greed for it, your desire for it, strong desire, which is described here as greed, which you can't get. You can't get the greed after millions of births of pious activity, and you certainly won't get Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavati by pious activity. So how to get that greed? How to get the ardent desire that is the most important thing in our life, is to cultivate this Krishna consciousness. It's not easy, but there's so many things competing for our heart, for our mind, for our desires. So that's the whole process of Krishna consciousness, means focused on do's and don'ts, right? Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam, these two essential first practices of Sharanagati, of surrender. Accepting those things favorable for remembering Krishna. Okay, chanting Hare Krishna, visiting the temple, reading these books, all these things. But there's a whole bunch of things we have to give up to. It means not reading other books. It means not going to other. It means, the do's and the don'ts. So what some of them may seem very strict and difficult. Well, then we have to negotiate that so they don't become what do you say? Complete blockages that'll prevent us from being Krishna conscious. But that's what it takes, because we're so conditioned. So we say, if it's essential to understand all the details of Krishna's path, well, no one can understand all the details, so it can't be essential. But what is essential is to become attracted to Krishna in the ways that we've been given to him, especially through the holy name and through service and association and all the process of deity worship and all the things that we can do. There's so many varieties of service we can do. Like I did a little rudimentary deity worship, but I never got into that really that much. I did minimal book distribution, but I was very fortunate to have this little skill that I developed. I didn't have much college, but I was pretty good with English. And I like to do it. I love to do it, to help put out books. And so I was able to stay with it for all these years, decades and decades. And I still find it fulfilling. This is, so that, finding your niche, your place where you can really feel that you can make a contribution and that you're happy doing that service. And we should do it, that Krishna will appreciate that. It'll make you expert in that service. So that's what we need. And at the same time, cultivate the part of Krishna consciousness, which is cultivating knowledge and remembrance of Krishna. That's also important. But it's not essential or even possible to understand all the details of Krishna's pastimes. You understand?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
May I ask a quick question regarding what you were just saying? Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your evening with us. But I'm wondering, because Prabhupada taught us that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when I'm reading Krishna's pastimes, especially in the 10th canto, and he's killing the Dhenukasura and he's killing Agasura, and everyone's rejoicing in Vraj that our little boy Krishna is so wonderful, and they're thanking the Supreme Personality of Godhead for this little boy and for protecting their little baby Krishna and their young Krishna. And I'm always wondering, when I'm reading these stories to my grandchildren, who do the residents of Vraj see as the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What is their concept of who is God, since they see Krishna as their young boy, whom they adore and love with all their hearts, but they don't see him as God? Well,
Vishnu, Narayan, they have that, with the glorious God. I mean, they see him he must be a demigod, who's come down, and he and Balaram are demigods, something like that. And sometimes it's, they see him completely as a human being, like Mother Yashoda will be afraid. There's a passage at the beginning of the 10th canto where it described that she and Rohini are merged into the mellow of maternal affection, and they're always in anxiety. Krishna, he can get hurt by something, some stones on the path, or some animal will attack him, or a million different things, because he's so mischievous. He's always running around everywhere, and so there's no conception that he's powerful there, even though at times he kills these demons. But you notice that oftentimes when it happens, like when he pulled down the two trees, Manigriva and Nalakuva, we just had Damodar month. Nanda Maharaj came running, with all the men, and they're so happy. The thing, it was just a miracle, and nobody was hurt. These huge trees come down, and somehow Krishna wasn't hurt, nor the other boys. And so, but the boys were insisting, no, Krishna pulled it. They didn't believe him. They didn't want to believe it. It couldn't be possible. So it's always the Yoga Maya is ready to cover, to evoke that sweet paternal or maternal mood of protection, which Krishna enjoys even more. So there's kind of a struggle going on there. Yes, sometimes Krishna, he swallows the forest fire and he kills Bakasura and Agasura and all these asuras, and they have to somehow fit that in to their conception of Krishna as their child. So at that time, they're just wondering how wonderful he is. But at other times, You know, it's just that, oh, he's very naughty. We have to chastise him and train him properly. You know, and even the gopis, the prayer that when he's left him in the rasa dance, there's a verse there where what does it say? Nakala gopika nandano bhavan nakala dehi nam tadatmaduk piknisartito vishwaguptihe sakahudehi van satatam kule. Says, we know that you're not really the son of Yashoda. You were prayed to by Lord Brahma to come, and you've come to save the world, you know. But then a couple of verses later, they're chastising him for leaving them in the middle of the night. So this is when you read the Krishna book of the 10th canon, you see Krishna is always churning up these different emotions. I especially remember that when I felt that way when I was reading the Kaliya Leela, Kaliya pastime, one of my favorites. He stays there in that, you know, caught up in that horrible snake for like hours, right? Until they're right at the moment of death. It's described in the Krishna book. When he noticed that they were practically dying out of anxiety, and he breaks out and he starts dancing, you know, and you can imagine their feelings of relief and joy to see Krishna, you know. So he's always doing that. He's like a great maestro, you know, conducting an opera or something, or he's in the play, but he's also directing the play. And that's because that's really what he loves most, is this rasa. And there's this verse, raso vaisa. It's just one of these little phrases from the Upanishads. He is himself rasa. And rasam ye vayam ladvanandi bhavati. And when we regain our rasa with Krishna, we'll also become anandis, you know, blissful, full of bliss. So that's the whole reason why he expands the spiritual world, and expands us so that he can engage in these loving relationships. But it's complex, you know. There's war, different you know, emotions fighting. You see that with Lord Chaitanya, and when he's dancing, there's all these different ecstasies fighting, you know, and displaying on his body. He's experiencing all these things. So, but that's the reality that we are hoping to regain, you know, and enter back into sometime. But it's a struggle in the material world.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us again, Sundari. Where are we? Oh, we're coming to the end. Well, let me give you another little poem here.
Go ahead.
Is that okay?
Yes. One more question is there. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Is there one more question? Go ahead. If there's another question. Oh, if you have time. Oh, there's two here. Oh, this is privately one. I'm not sure when. What should I do, Namananda? Krishna.
You can go ahead, bro.
All right. Well, I can maybe answer them on email. All right. Yeah. So this one is to Srila Prabhupada. I don't know if I shared this one with you yet. I wrote this for one of the Vyasa Pujas, but I tweaked it a little bit, so it's good for every day, any day.
I think you shared one. You shared one on the disappearance day. I think Prabhupada Kripa.
Prabhupada. I sent you the
yes.
file for that. Yeah.
Yes.
This is a different one. This is a shorter one. And especially it's geared toward my service, you know, putting out books and everything. So, but the first part is universal. Oh, Prabhupada, we hail the day when you appear just like a ray of Krishna's vast effulgence bright to give this blind world back its sight. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts and pray with deepest love that we may serve your lotus feet in every circumstance we meet. As years go by and books go out, we see what life is all about, to serve your mission and our Lord's by spreading wide your sacred words. As well, you want us all to strive to let those words direct our lives. This safest path will lead us home, no more in Maya's realm to roam. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Prabhupada Jai. Haribol.
Okay, one or two more. We have time?
Yes.
Okay. So this is from Stavamala, Rupa Goswami's Stavamala. One of many verses like this. Urari katamodadi tutabangam nabidadadikidano rasadangam yuvati badaya vitamanatadangam panamati yamatatatikatadangam. His Flute emanates entrancing sounds for the cowherd girls whose love abounds for the clever cloud complexion Lord who's dancing upon the Kalindi shore. Madoram, Madoram, Vavadasya Vibhor, Madoram, Madoram, Vadanam, Madoram. Madogandi Madusmitame Tadaho, Madoram, 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 Madoram. Sweet, sweet is my dear Lord's form, sweet is still his face so fair, but his honey-scented gentle smile is sweet beyond compare.
Mm.
Well, how about this prayer? Prabhupada quotes this in the purport in the second canto. It's by Rupa Goswami, and he's comparing himself to the Chataka bird who drinks the water from the cloud that falls, won't go down and drink any other water. Vidachay mai dandam di nabando dayangva, gatadihi nababotta kachadanya mamasti. Niputashata kotir nimalang vanavamvas. The Chataka subsists on rain it catches in midair, and so it's always praying to the cloud to send its fare.
You're cutting, bro. Your internet is cutting, I think, at least for
really?
me. Not sure.
Can anyone else? Is there a problem?
No, it's coming out all right.
Yeah. no
Okay,
problem.
maybe it's just
Is it?
maybe it's
Okay.
you, Krishna. The
For me,
Chataka,
yeah, problem.
the Chataka subsists on rain and it catches in midair, and so it's always praying to the cloud to send its fare. Yet though that cloud may send a thunderbolt instead of rain, that bird continues praying fervently despite the pain.
Mm.
Just like the Chataka, my mind is fixed upon one goal, and that is you, O Lord, most kind to every fallen soul. So whether it is punishment you send or mercy sweet, I'll always pray to you for service to your lotus feet.
Mm. I like that.
You like that one?
Beautiful. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Anyway,
Thank
there's
you.
so many more. Maybe next time I do, I can do just a whole presentation of that little poems that we can speak about.
Mm. That would be wonderful.
Prabhuji, may I make a suggestion?
Yes,
Right here? The way you recited the Sanskrit verses, so musical, transcendental, and then the English poem that you wrote explaining it, Krishnanaman Prabhu sent your file, and reading it, I read some of your poems and the Sanskrit, but when you narrate it, that has such a beautiful effect. So I was wondering if a audio rendition of these poems is possible.
Mm.
I have an audio of a good number of them I can send you. It's not the final audio, but it's something. I can make that available. But I see that I should probably make a recording of that file with background music and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, I'll take that. I'll put that in my to-do list.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay. So I got to get over to the temple because we have still our evening program here. But thank you for letting me share some of the musings on these verses. This was a good subject. And
Madhupad Prabhu or Devkananda Prabhu, are there any?
I'm sorry?